is up. And they're vulgar.
All right, here we go. So welcome aboard, everybody. My name is Doobyis. This is Fly in Formation. It's a spin-off of my weekly mix show. After the Smoke is Clear is my mix show, ATSIC Radio. We're playing independent hip-hop every week over there from across the country. You know, I try to really focus on different scenes across Canada and different artists every week. I never play stuff twice. So this week, though, on Fly in Formation, I'm sitting down to talk to two different artists from Edmonton, or at least who, you know, I know as guys who represent Edmonton. I'm honestly a little bit confused with this whole thing, but I got Ol Skool and StR8 GUttA with me. You know, I know you guys from Edmonton, but I did want to ask just off the top, like, Ol Skool, do you rep Edmonton? Is that where you're from, man? Are you constantly in Edmonton? Okay, all right.
Born and raised, bro. I'm from Edmonton. I'm from the inner city, man. Born and raised.
Dude, like, I can remember seeing you around shows and stuff like that, you know, and of course, GUttA always being around shows, so I know you both from the Edmonton scene, but like, okay, so first off, I should say you've got an album coming up November 10th. It's called West Coast All-Stars, and you guys sent it over to me early, so I've been able to like premiere a couple tracks on After the Smoke is Clear. I never really thought I'd be doing like a world premiere of a Snoop Dogg song or a song with the game on it or whatever, but there it was. I mean, those can still be heard on After the Smoke is Clear, a couple of past episodes. But can you guys just tell me, like, how did you manage to put this together with this many West Coast names from Edmonton?
Well, it all started for me about 10 years ago, and I used to be part of a clique, and I heard that WC was in Canada and was in Winnipeg and was doing a record with some dudes out in Winnipeg, Gang Life. Shout out to homie Kid, Gang Life.
Shout out Kid.
And I was kind of just like WC, like Connect Gang WC, and kind of lost my shit. Like, Dubs in Canada. And like, why? How do I not know about this? Why do I not know about this? How has nobody informed me of any of this information? And then I found out that he was coming to Edmonton. So I ended up lining up my first feature, my first video that I had ever done was with WC. We shot it at the Cromdale. Still the only cat to ever shoot a video like that in the hood.
With WC, so extra credit there, yeah.
That's right. That's
exactly right.
With Dub.
And me and Dub kind of just clicked. And especially me and his brother Crazy Tunes, I went to meet them at the homie Shot's house, and I ended up getting my walk on for them. And, you know, they were just impressed by my all around vibe, just, you know, who I was, how West Coast influenced I was, how much I knew about the West Coast. You know, no fake shit, no phony shit, just how West Coast I was. I've been about this West Coast shit, you know, ever since, you know, I was knee high to a grasshopper, you know, ever since I was a little kid. You know,
that's why I was like, is this dude from California? Like, maybe you were transplanted up into Edmonton or something, you know, like, that was my guess.
As I was getting older and becoming a man, people used to think like I was on some witness protection shit, like I was some, you know, ex-gangbanger, had to fuck off out to Canada, and, you know, I was hitting it out there, and I just came out here to just, you know, abolish the whole whatever there was for a West Coast hip-hop scene out here. But no, you know, my dad raised me on, you know, Ohio Players, GQ, Kool and the Gang, Brothers Johnson, you know, the Gap Band. I was raised on old school funk music.
Word.
You know, so.
Do you consider Edmonton the West? Are we far enough west that Edmonton is the West? I know, like, you know, politically you'll hear Canadians talk about like Alberta as the West or whatever. So like,
hey man, Edmonton, man, Alberta is as wild westy as it gets.
Right.
You know, I get it that Vancouver is officially the beach. You know what I mean? And that's as far west as it gets. But, you know, Alberta is a mini Texas, as far as I'm concerned. You know, from the oil, the industry, the people, Alberta is
Well, we're
Wild
definitely
West. I don't give a
known
fuck what anybody
for
says.
some Western shit out here with like the Calgary Stampede and all that going on. You know,
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
the rodeos.
I hadn't
everything,
thought of
right?
West in that like Western sense. Yeah, but I guess totally. So how long did it take to put this together? Like long time coming. It feels like.
all together, almost 10 years.
Damn.
Yeah, solid decade. About
Like
that.
I started with the one feature. Dub came back. The homie told me that Dub was looking to do another feature. I of course jumped on it. When I showed up at the club and met them all at the club, he was like, "Oh shit, I should have known it was you." So then we had a couple conversations over the phone. It was, "Hey, let's cut out the middleman." And then I got like a Jerry Maguire type phone call. Had me doing, feeling like a little kid. I was doing backflips in my kitchen. It was, how about you come get down with the Big Swing fam? I want to put you on, make you my Canadian artist. I want you to make me a list of people who you've always wanted to fuck with. You know what I mean? You ain't gonna be getting hit over the head. Ain't nobody gonna be digging out your pockets anymore. It was who are you signed to? It was not, no, I do all this out of pocket. This is all me, homie. Like, this is.
So were a lot of the features that you ended up lining up, were a lot of the features kind of through Dub C then, like through that Big Swing family?
Yeah, a good half of them. Yep.
So okay, so of the features on the album, like, did you meet these dudes too? Like, how many of these guys have been through town? Because I know a lot of the time, they'll come through town. Artists will pay to do.
I used to fly back and forth.
Okay.
Yeah, I used to fly back and forth. Like the ones that like really meant a lot to me, like your tradies and your JO felonies, and yeah, I used to fly out there. So Dub would be like, "Okay, here's the deal, right? Like, I got a homie on deck. You know what I mean? You ain't gonna be getting hit over the head no more and charged all this ridiculous. Ain't nobody gonna be eating out of your pockets, your family." And if I used to go out there and do shows too, right? Okay. So I'd be like, "Okay, here's a big show. You guys are doing a big lowrider show or big something or other," and I'd be like, "Yo, like this is childhood dream come true shit going down. Like, I got to get on a plane. I'm gonna be out there. I'll come meet y'all." And I used to come meet them. They used to bring me out on stage. Made tunes, Dub. They'd introduce me as their Canadian artist. I'd rip off a track or two. And then I used to get to meet everybody that I always wanted to. Like, it was...
Man, that's mind blowing. That is crazy. Some childhood dream shit there, and especially that you actually we're putting in the miles to get down there and get in studio with people. That goes so far too, Yeah. Like, for instance, like I listen to 3 or 4 hours worth of new hip hop every week, just trying to find new stuff to play, right? So. Yeah. I end up hearing verses from guys who have sold them off, and I've got a playlist that I call like wholesale features, where it's like. You'll hear the same, King Crooked verse on this guy's track and this guy's track and this guy's track and this guy's track.
Oh yeah, no, I did.
And I don't even mean to throw shade at that, but I was surprised that like, damn, this is all stuff I haven't really heard before.
Oh no, and if you'll notice, a lot of them, like the big homies, shout me out.
Yeah, exactly. They're name dropping you, or they're name dropping Edmonton, or rhyming in the city of champs or whatever.
I never asked anybody to do that.
Damn.
That was all just strength. This is the little homie. You know what I mean? This is the partner. This is Lil Cuz. This is, you know what I mean? The Crooked Eye one fucked me right up. That was one of the crazier ones, because Crook just come through. We were chilling, sipping, you know what I mean? And he just jumped in the booth with like a little bottle of vodka and was like, turn the lights out. And we were like, what? He was like, yeah, shut the lights out. Damn. He jumped in there with a little bottle of vodka. We shut the lights out. He didn't write fuck all. No pen, no pad, no nothing. He just jumped in there and just did it.
Yikes. Boom. So that was up in Edmonton?
Yep.
That was at Soundproof.
Okay, yeah. I was going to ask where most of the recording was done, because it all sounds nice. The sound quality is beautiful. Yeah, okay. Shows to Soundproof.
Yep, they were all recorded at Soundproof, yeah.
Nice. And then, so of the features, like how many of those were recorded elsewhere. Did some of them get sent in?
Yeah.
Some did.
The Dog Pound joints were done at Soundproof. That was another incredible one. Daz and Corrupt.
Yeah.
Those dudes, like Daz, I think 6 minutes. Corrupt, less than 15. And that's because we were out back in pools and shit. But these dudes, like, I showed them the beat, and Dog Pound, that was a special one for me. You know, when Dog Pound come through, you know, I was out back kicking it, and I brought my Cadillac through, you know what I mean, my Purple People Eater, and they were like, oh, okay, you know what I mean, Daz and Corrupt. We clicked, like, instantly. Like, they were like, oh, okay,
That's
you
right.
know, Dub told us about you, like, you know, you're a West Coast, you know, we had an idea you might get down, but, you know, we didn't know you get down like that, cuz, like, damn.
Nice.
And when I played them the beat, they were like, oh, shit. And Daz was like, boom, like I said, like 5-6 minutes, and he was in there, ad-libbing, punching, just fire.
So that's the one thing I didn't get when you guys sent the album over was the producer list. I wanted to ask, like, who made all those beats, man?
The majority of those beats was made by Kryple Oct. Majority of them. And then I also had a couple of cats out in LA that I messed with. They filled in the gaps because Skool was missing, I don't know, probably like a handful of records. He had most of it fleshed out already, but he had some features that were missing beats. Okay. So we had to come together on that and just see what his records were sounding like already and what could actually complement essentially what he'd already built. So that's how that.
I was kind of wondering in the process, like, were you guys building songs around the Legends verses, kind of, or, yeah, you know, were you sending half finished songs to these guys to work on, or
no? I was just sending homies beats, and if I wasn't live in the studio with them to do it, like a couple beats are produced by Rob T, who's a producer for big producer for the East Siders. He's produced for Rage, all kinds of cats.
Shout out Rob T.
Yeah, you know, what's his name there? Short Chop, you name it, like A-list of cats, you know. If I wasn't right in the studio with them, it was just Dub would be like, okay, send me a couple beats. Okay, he wouldn't even tell me concepts or nothing, just okay, this is this is that. They would send me back the record, and then be like for The Definition, for instance, which is one of my favorite records with Trey D.
Yeah.
Bro, that was dream. Like, when they sent me that back with the concept built into the record, I was okay. Like, I gotta go to work. Like a lot of these records, when they used to come back to me, I'd sit down and just be like, whoo, like,
yeah, some high bars to jump over for sure.
Like, like I gotta sit back and take this to the lab for a minute, you know, like these, like, I wasn't getting no bullshit bars from these legendary cats. Yeah, you know what I mean? It wasn't
and both of you guys delivered beside them, honestly. Like, you guys sound right at home beside these legends, which is crazy. Honestly, like, you both nailed that shit. So props to you both on that. How long were you working on the bars for your parts for? Like, did you put extra effort into writing when you're on a track with somebody who sold platinum already?
Yo, I want to speak on this. Let me speak on this for a minute. Basically, what happened was Skool was just in a zone when he first started with Dub.
Yeah.
After that, he just took off. Like, he really understood the game ahead of what I understood it to be at the time. So I asked him, what was the significance of making a record with a guy like Dub C and spending, even if it was a little bit of money, I felt like he was way over budget. But it was my brother that took me aside and said, you got to look at it geographically. We're in Canada and we're not on the poppin' side. We're on the west side and we're not in BC. So what's the likelihood that I'm going to sign a record deal? And I said, well, I don't know. If you get lucky or you do some of the right things, maybe, you know, you get in the right situation and you're on your way. But he said, you know, I could do that, but I could build my dream record and then I could take it there if I want to, or I could just see what it does independently. So it was really cool to see Ol Skool step up and really be that artist early. Like I was asking just like you, I'm like, well, how are you gonna rap with these guys? Like these guys are legends. And in his head, he had already told himself, I'm on that level. I got my 10,000. I know G-Funk like the back of my hand. I'm just gonna keep writing rhymes until they make sense for the record.
Yeah.
But he was very, very hard on himself. I'm talking Ol Skool really took time to write every single verse that you heard. And even when I decided that I wanted to be involved, he made me audition for every record I was on. So it wasn't no cakewalk. It wasn't, we're homies and you're just gonna get on this record. I told him I had a vested interest in getting it out there because he was actually feeling after a lot of time passed that people didn't really feel the same way about the music. Maybe it doesn't have a place in today's hip hop. And I told him,
I think it's a timeless sound. Yeah, people are always going to like that sound. People who like that music are always going to like that sound. And as long as it's done well, right? And I mean, I think you guys got over that bar or whatever. But speaking, GUttA, about like, you know, Ol Skool making you up your pen game or whatever. Like, I've been listening to your bars for a long time, man. Like, you know, I've been aware of your music for 15, 20 years now or whatever.
Yes,
I can't say the same about you, Ol Skool. Like, this kind of came out of left field at me, honestly, that you were even a rapper. I'd seen you on the scene and shit, but I thought you were like kind of promotion, just guy on the scene or whatever. Maybe a producer or something that I just didn't know. But like, yeah, man.
It was, I was just out there like everybody was always wondering, you know, everybody just knew me as, you know what I mean? I was an old freestyle cat. I was an old battle cat, you know, and then once I got taught how to write, it was over. And then once I got the opportunity to work with these dudes, I kind of just started hoarding records for a while.
Yep.
And you know, but people used to see me like every West Coast cat. Soon as, you know, from E40 to Bone Thugs, to Warren G, to Crook, to especially as soon as they used to get off the plane,
the welcome wagon, yeah.
I already had them on my pocket. They were already asking the promoter, yo, you know the homie Ol Skool? How do I get with the homie Ol Skool? You know, I'm supposed to hook up with the homie Ol Skool and do this record or possibly this video. Or so I would show up at the event and, you know, I love all the promoters, but they used to be like, this motherfucker. Like, how?
Yeah. Swoop off with the artist afterwards.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Bro, that's right and center. They were like, how? Like,
yeah. Hey, I mean,
know,
yeah, whatever. Real recognizes real or whatever, right?
That's, on that note, I want to say shout out to Chubbs, because if it wasn't for Chubbs and Soundproof, there was a lot of nights where they kept the studio open after the show or early in the morning. They turned the lights on, you know what I mean? Chubbs was getting up mad early to make some of these features happen.
You used to hit up Chubbs, be like, bro, are we doing this now, after the club, tomorrow morning? I don't care if it's 3, 4 in the morning. Let's go get it.
Whenever
you know,
work. Nice.
Like I said, Crooked Eye. I had Crooked Eye at All Happy at 4 o'clock in the morning.
That's true.
I was out here eating with dudes. Dub used to dub in tunes. No, the first time it blew him, no security, no nothing. Right from Union, jumped in my truck and, okay, let's go. We're to the booth. Let's go, homie. Let's get it.
Nice, man. That's work ethic too, honestly, though, to still be in the let's make music mindset after the show. That takes a lot, and not all artists are necessarily going to be that way, right?
Absolutely.
To have that type of motivation to do that or whatever. But I did want to ask something that I heard, you know, somebody say to me as I was telling them upcoming interviews I'm doing. They're like, yo, that's got to be the most expensive album to ever come out of Edmonton. I think they were talking like specifically hip hop. But what would you say about that speculation? Like, maybe?
You know what? I do want to touch on that again, because here's the thing. When a lot of these records were getting recorded, it wasn't like it is now. You could get a feature depending on your skill set, depending on who you built with. And sometimes it didn't even cost. Sometimes it was just for the love.
Yeah.
But everything changed when a certain artist, and I don't like the name drop, but I will in this case, it was Lil Durk. And I'll never forget, I called Ol Skool and I said, okay, Lil Durk said he's charging $350K for a feature. And the first thing Skool said, he had the same look you had. He's like, I wouldn't pay that guy $1 for a feature. I said, I know, but he's charging that much and people are paying. So a certain gentleman by the name of Snoop Dogg got a little bit irritated by this comment and said, okay, if people want to be charging that much, I'm charging this much now. So that particular feature, the value on it went through the roof that day. And I was just like, hey, brother, do you know that this record is actually worth quite a bit now all of a sudden? He had to go check it out. And then what was your take on that, Old Skool? What was your take on that?
That blew my mind, right? Because when I was doing mine, like I said, like I used to just hit up, if it wasn't me flying over there or coming over there, if it was somebody that I wanted to fuck with that was already, Dub would just hit him up, like I said, and be like, yo, you're going out there, right? You're going to link with the little homie. And, you know, that's family. And so I used to, I'm not even going to disclose what I paid for my features because
I'd never ask you to, honestly, man. Like, and I was just on that speculation. Do you think like an album in the ballpark has ever been done though? Like, because honestly, man, from my point of view, I don't think a lot of those artists are working with anybody who pays them. You know, Snoop Dogg doesn't fucking need the money, right? Like it's not like he's out there hurting to the point where he's just going to work with anybody who has money for him.
The way that I look at my album, our album, is and the compilation of artists, legendary West Coast cats that I compiled onto the album. I don't even know if there's been that many on even just a West Coast tape. Like even people out of California, haven't. Especially no new artists, no artists that.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, other than the legacy artists who have been doing it and can get features like that easy. Yeah.
I used to do it. I used to do it on a fam tip. You know, like everywhere I went. You know, rest in peace, my brother Crazy Tunes. You know, my brother Dub C Melee. You know, these cats used to fly me, and I remember the one. It was an Eazy-E tribute show. And I flew out there, and we were in what the fuck? Not Bakersfield. San Bernardino, on the other side of San Bernardino, and I was just everywhere I went. Like it was, yo, this is the homie, and then you know, Dub be over here, and then I get called over here. I get to meet, you know what I mean, the East Siders, and I'm like, holy fuck! Like I'm talking to in Goldie Loke right now, and then Melee be like over here. I come over here, and then I'm meeting the MC8, and then Dub be like, come over here. Now I'm meeting Weasel Loke and Chill from Compton's Most Wanted. Now I'm meeting, you know, the Dirty OGs, and then you know, Salam Rex sees me and it's like, they let your black ass out the country. Come here, and then boom, there's Daz and Corrupt, and then you know, Dub called me right up on stage. Next thing you know, I'm meeting Lady Your Rage. You know what I mean? I'm just left, right, and center. I'm mind boggled. I'm taking pictures. I don't even know what the hell is going on. It's one of the most surreal evenings of my life.
Yo, from time that you've spent around, you know, some of these bigger names, are there any gems that stick out to you? Like, is there anything you've kind of picked up specifically from working with any of these guys that you could share? That's something that, you know, was said or just that you saw done?
Spending time, all the time that I spent around Crazy Tunes and Dub, the way that they treated me and brought me in like family, and you know, the ins and outs, and you know, everything that, you know, from the conversations and the time that I spent with Dub and Crazy Tunes and the teachings and the ins and outs of the game and how this works and this and that, and you know, they never let me get bullied by anybody that, you know, I wanted to work with. And I had one or two records that somebody owed me, and Dub was like, what? Like, hold up. And you know what I mean? I had tried to get the record, and, you know, I'm not mentioning the artists to try to slough me off because I'm just somebody from Canada, which I've heard has happened to lots. Yo, I had the record fucking 2 days later. Like, yo, this is a little homie, cuz you didn't know. You know, like, cuz it's family. You know what I mean? This is a little homie, bro. You better get to, you know, you better get to yakking on that fucking mic and get that over to homie. You know, and everybody that I met was just E40. Legendary.
Yeah.
The coolest person. Like, I idolized him my whole life. Just, you know, when I met E40, he's one of the only, from Snoop Dogg to everybody, E40 was one of the only ones that left me kind of like not fanboyed, but like speechless.
Yeah.
You know, like
that man has been originating styles for a long, long time now, and he's still at it. You know, yeah, still fresh as hell.
He talks like that. Like he talks like that. Like he talks how he raps.
Bay Area slang or whatever. Yeah, I've seen interviews with the guy.
Like his voice, everything. His voice, everything. Like he talks like that. Man. Like I remember walking in the green room and he was like, "Oh, you're the nigga old school. Like what's happening with you?" And I was like you just talk like that? Like you don't change your voice? Oh, you just talk like that? Like every day? Like on a regular basis? Like and he went to shake my hand and I just remember looking at his Rolex. This OG classic Rolex E40 with the goggles half hanging off his face with a little bottle of cognac. And I remember him talking to me for like 2 minutes and not remembering a single fucking word that came out of his mouth because I was just like his E40. Like, this is Charlie Hustle. Yeah. And then he was like, "Hey, homie." And I was like, yeah. Like, no, I'm good. Like, had to snap out of it. Like, no, I'm good. Like, yeah, no, what's up? Like, I'm good. But yeah. E40 was a big one.
So, Skool, when you started putting this project together, like it was originally going to be just kind of a solo project with you and all these features. Is that
100%?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what is it that made you decide to get GUttA involved?
I'll speak on this. So,
go ahead.
My brother had gone through a lot of situations with crews more than labels, and unfortunately, those two situations, especially early on, they didn't pan out. These people were well aware of his potential. They were well aware of the track list that was building, but they weren't really sure how to market him. They weren't really sure how to get him, how to break him as an artist. Because like you said, even though Skool had this impressive album, he doesn't really have anything before the album. So me and him got to really talking, really politicking about how this is going to happen. Skool's not really in a good place, like musically at the time, and he felt like those records were just going to stay in the vault. So I told him, what do I got to do to get these records out of the vault? And he was just having fun with me at this point. But Skool says, "Oh, you really want these records out of the vault?" I said, "Yeah, and if I got to, I'll even get on the album just to help you push it, whatever you want me to do. What do I got to do?" Do you know what this guy said to me, Doobyis? I got to tell you, because this is the most asshole shit that anybody could ever get told by their homie, all right? So I'm out of this house when he's living at the trailer park. This guy tells me to do two things. The first one, he wants me to eat a Carolina Reaper. I didn't even know what it was. He had a dried Carolina Reaper in his pocket in a pouch, 3 of them. He says, "This is the hottest pepper in the world. You got to eat this for me to even entertain this conversation any further. And then I got one more for you." So after much deliberation, I decide I'm going to eat the Reaper because then he can't go back on what he told me. I eat this thing. You can even ask homie. Went outside, ate a whole box
out the front door. Yo,
running
out
up
the
and
front
down the
door. Yep, ice cream sandwiches out the front door.
Oh,
bare
man.
socks, running around the entire block eating ice cream sandwiches.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. Those peppers don't mess around. That shows dedication to the cause.
Right?
No word of a lie.
Yeah.
So now we're done. About an hour and a half, 2 hours later, I'm finally calming down. I'm not steaming off the head anymore. And he's like, "All right, so, you passed the first test, but there's another test." And I said, "Well, man, whatever I got to do, I'm down." And he actually tells me, "Well, I got a Snoop record." And I said, "Shit, well, you got a Snoop record? That's crazy. Like, what do I got to do to get on this album? Maybe you'll even let me on the Snoop record." He said, "Nah, I can't let you on that record. But if you get a Game record, I could let you on that record." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, because, people just pull those out of their pocket."
Just easy, that.
Yeah. Yo, I didn't think I did. I was like, no, it's not going to happen. You got your East Coast, I got my West Coast. I love you. You're my brother since I was 10 years old. You know what I mean? Literally. Like,
you guys go way back like that? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
okay. All right.
We go way back.
Oh,
I met Skool when he was 12. Yeah, we go back when I was 16.
Itself.
Yo, you cut out
this
there,
man tried to rob me.
What?
This man tried to rob me out back the pool hall.
Hey, Skool, you're not supposed to tell that during the interview.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
You gotta be easy with your words there, fam.
Manzem thought I was a midget.
He had a full beard. Man. No. You're not telling the story properly. Skool had the full beard. The look he has right now, Doobyis, he's had this look since he was 12. The beard and everything.
The beard.
The first time I meet James, He's going to a bar. I'm off school. I'm 16. I'm skipping. This guy's in the bar buying a beer. So I figured this guy must be an old short guy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? We're gonna figure it out. So his alleged robbery didn't end up happening. What happened was I misunderstood that he was a kid. And when I found out he was a kid, all I needed was some proof. So when people told me, this guy's actually a kid, he's not in school, he's drinking beer, it's hard to believe, but it's really true. So I made this guy, and I don't know if you remember this, School, but I made you march back to your mom's house, and I made you introduce me to your mom. And then after that, we were all good. We were all good. We used to rap together pretty much every day after that, because I didn't know he was a rapper.
Every day.
And then I said, hey, I'm a rapper too. And that's how it kind of jumps off.
So you guys been rapping together for so long, like Ol Skool, you're definitely super West Coast influenced. We've, been talking about it. Straight GUttA though, like, dude, you've been, when I think of you, I think Wu-Tang, right?
Of course.
You've been running around throwing up a different W for a long time.
Yeah, man.
So can we talk about that? What's, I don't know. Like, what do you listen to more on a regular basis? Are you listening to West Coast music, or do you listen to East Coast stuff?
Well, fact is, even School knows I love the East, but because I grew up with my brother and just like how I come to hip hop, a lot of West Coast music I was listening to early, namely classics like Tupac, All Eyes on Me, West Side Connection, Bow Down, just really commercial records that everybody got their hands on. Yeah. So I always had a love for the West Coast.
I'm the same way.
And the cool thing was,
I'm the same way,
Yeah, you're the same way on the East. But the cool thing is that because I spent so much time around Ol Skool, it really taught me how to rap differently. So he's heard me very technical, very much with the punchlines, very much with the metaphors, much more lyrical records, darker beats, grimier beats, and everybody thought I just had one gear. So my whole thing ever since I dropped my first album, Last in Line, and then HMV, and now this, is every single time people see me on a record, I'm doing something totally different. I'm really trying to show them how versatile I could be. So when I was auditioning for Ol Skool, it was actually just freestyling in his kitchen, and he was just loving the way I was putting the bars together on a West Coast beat. He stopped the beat and said, why don't you just do that all the time? And I said, because that's what you do. And he said, but how did you learn how to do that? I said, because you taught me how to do that.
It was the flow.
Yeah,
right.
You taught me that, though.
The flow and the delivery. That's what I used. I used to bitch at him all the time because he always had amazing bars, but what I understood that regular people or just the general people didn't understand is literally the punchlines and the bars and the metaphors that he was kicking, the way that he was kicking them.
Going over people's heads.
I was just gonna say a lot of your stuff, GUttA, would go over a lot of people's heads if they're not paying a lot of attention.
Exactly.
A lot of attention to lyrics, right? Like you have tricky word plays, and it's almost your signature style, man. But I don't want to say dumbed down, but I understood a lot of what you were talking about on this album more than on previous albums prior.
Exactly.
Because that's
Didn't
the
have
one
to think
thing
about it as hard.
That's the one thing I used to beat him over the head about all the time. Was the flow and the way, the cadence, the way that he delivers it.
So was it a conscious change, GUttA? Like, did you on this one, were you trying to, like, you wanted to make it more understandable?
I wanted to relate to Ol Skool. So my position was sidekick on this record. This is still very much an Ol Skool record, but he needed help crossing the finish line. For example, the cover art, the order of the records, the track listing, the credits. I was doing all of that behind the scenes because he wasn't really strong there. He was really strong putting it together, but just finishing it and seeing what little intricacies needed to be completed, he was like, well, I'm stuck on this, so if you can help me with this, show me. So it started in the booth for me, and I still remember that day. I went in there, and just like you said, I'm a different kind of rapper. I got into a bad little rut there where I was listening to super lyrical rap only. So, I mean, on my playlist, it was Papoose, followed by Cannabis, followed by Crooked Eye, followed by...
Well, don't get me wrong, man. I mean, I'm a lyricist, and I appreciate dense, high-level bars like you've done in the past, but this was still like high-level lyricism on this one. it was just less abstract. That's what I'm going to say. It's less abstract to me. Like it was less maybe like, you know, poetic that you have to like think about like what the fuck does that mean as much on this, you know?
Yeah. And that was for school because school style doesn't permit me to be that version of myself on a tape that's predominantly his. So I told him, hey, if you gamble on me, I could meet you halfway. We could do a red and meth kind of deal, but we're going to make sure that you shine on certain records. So there are records where school is alone. I did that on purpose. I'm not even on the record because I want people to know, whether they be just regular Joes, execs, whoever's really taking in the record, that he can do this on his own.
Yeah.
The other thing was he had these feature records, but I told him, you set yourself up two ways. There's too many features, so it can't be regarded as a release because you don't have enough solos. But what you can do is you can bring me in as a ringer. And now what we can do is we can perform pretty much any record that I'm on instead of you doing 16 bars and asking them who likes so-and-so and then cutting to the next record. So I told him what we've done in
performances. That makes sense. I didn't even think of that. Yeah.
So I told him that. He liked that. I said, you know, technically we have something we can tour with now because I'm involved.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, okay. So when they get the album and they're listening, now they get the feature version as well. But without the features, we can still do what is considered a record these days because it's 2 verses, not 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that makes sense.
And I refuse to call it a compilation because it's not. It's the farthest thing from that.
No, it does feel like it's one project. It all has like the same sound. You know, I wouldn't call it a compilation either.
Not anymore.
No,
in the beginning, we had a compilation. It was about how we were going to put it together, which he really left me up to task. Make it sound like an album, GUttA.
as far as like track order or okay.
And beats too. I mean, we had some dilemmas. Like we had a Snoop record, but we didn't have a beat. So we needed to find a beat with the right BPMs that was West Coast. And School was feeling like, man, like this is a lot. This is a big ask. So if we can't actually cut this record, it's all good because I never got it with a beat anyway. But I've been training my ear for so long, just like you. I listen to so much hip hop. And one thing I started doing when Ol Skool said you're coming on board is I just started listening to a lot of G-Funk records and really studying the cadences of the guys that he had on records and just really hearing how they put records together because it's a whole different process. So even when you hear me on this album, you're probably not going to hear me like that on an album again because I'm giving you that G-Funk side of me. I'm showing you it's one of my influences as well.
Yeah.
But again, that comes back to being around Ol Skool and rapping with him for so many years that like, when he was like, I don't know if you could do this, I said, well, I've been rapping with you like 20 years, bro. I'm pretty sure I got an idea of what West Coast is supposed to sound like.
Longer than that even.
Well,
yeah, 25 years.
And I mean, I think it seems like a lot of people enter into hip hop by liking that West Coast sound, right? Like, a lot of people I knew anyways got in off of kind of like Dre and the Chronic, and that was a door that kind of opened a lot of that music to a lot of people, you know. Then they'd go back and check out NWA or whatever, and just really like dig in on the West Coast sound. But
that wasn't it. That wasn't it. Nope.
Not
the
for
Chronic
you.
Nope, the Chronic was never big to me.
Doggy Style, that was your take.
Yep, Doggy Style was my joint. That was my business. And then even before Bow Down and Connect Gang, it's a whole sticky fucking situation that I'm not necessarily going to get into. Mac 10. Based on a true story.
Yeah, it was big influence on Ol Skool.
The first time that I seen that Backyard Boogie joint on Much Music changed my life.
Solo Mac 10 stuff, eh? All right.
That was it for me.
There was another question you asked, and you were saying that I fly another W, and I'm explaining that to you real quick too.
Yeah. Talk about that too. Yeah.
So what happens now is me and Ol Skool, we've established that he is in fact a child. I'm a child, you know, we young ghetto kids, and we both rap. So all these kids know me in school individually. We've already met, but we're not really homies yet. So they're getting us to run through every rapper they know, and they're running out of contestants, I guess. So they end up like corralling all these kids. I don't know if Skool remembers, but they brought us to meet each other. not knowing we already knew each other. And
I remember the first time. You remember the first time though? We were walking down 95th Street.
Well, I don't remember the first time, but I'm saying the time that I do remember.
When we started rapping together before this, it was on 95th Street by Stadium Drugs.
Okay, yeah.
And you were like, "Oh, you rapping now? We're rapping now?" And
right.
We crossed the street, and we ended up. We went back to my mama's in the hood on the porch, and that was one of the first times we rapped it off.
But I'm talking about when the hood grabbed us individually and school had grown.
I was just saying, do you remember the 95th Street when we went back to my mama's crib and rapped our ass?
You were younger there. You were younger there. When I got out,
absolutely.
I was rapping and they brought me to meet you and we let everybody know that we already knew each other. And then we put on a battle, really. And people wanted to know who was better. And then it started pissing us off because we were battling and asking people who's the better rapper. And they're saying, honestly, you got cold lyrics, but homie's flow is impeccable. We can't really pick. So me and him are getting really frustrated. And people kept saying to us, what? Y'all should just get together. Y'all should just get together.
Well, and then you remember what we started. You remember what we started doing in Churchill?
Yeah, the battles.
Come one, come all. Get your food ate up off your plate.
Well, it was a round robin. There was about 6 brothers there, and everybody had their day.
Depending on
was consistency.
True story. Yeah, depending on who you are, what your style is.
At Churchill, you're talking like Cypher Wild?
No, before that. It was Cypher Wild
before
Kree had Cypher Wild, but Kree was still around.
Okay. I just had to double check there. I was like, Cypher Wild's the only thing I knew of that went on and whatever.
Years before
that.
Okay, yeah.
Way before
that makes sense, yeah, if you guys are talking about back in the day. Can I ask you guys, I ask everybody I talk to just point blank describe their local hip-hop scene to me. So you're both guys who have grown up in it, been around it. What's the Edmonton hip hop scene like?
It'll never be what it was.
It used to be better?
Absolutely. When all these shows were coming in, we were doing all these, it'll never be what it was.
I talked to Arlo Maverick. He called the mid-2000s the golden era of Edmonton hip-hop. And I was like, God damn, that was when I was running around. I didn't think that was the golden era. I just thought that was when I fucking showed up. You know, so I have good memories of them. But yeah.
Yo,
literally it was.
Let me say something about this. Hip-hop, because I'm always reflecting on it in E-Town especially. I'm a big advocate. Yeah. A lot of people don't know that was what I was pushing before I was really pushing the clan. I was just pushing E-Town. And it was my brother here that told me, homie, you're not going to get over. Like, I know what you're trying to do. I know you're yelling E-Town on stage pretty much every time you get on stage and you're doing it for the people, but they're not responding. And I was like, okay, well, what are we going to do? And again, right back to that woo stuff, I always was messing with the clan.
Yeah.
So he told me, you need to take a page out of my book. If you really mess with the clan, you got to go mess with the clan for real. So Ghostface was coming to town. And my brother told me, you're going to have to go do what I did with Dub C to actually get an audience with these guys, and you're going to have to get a record with this guy. So just like you, Doobyis, I'm like, man, I'm local. That's a big task. Like, I'm like, I don't even know. So I sent my man at the time, Jay Mays. He was working with me on production.
Yep.
He was really tight with Killer Priest, and he knew the clan. And he basically said, I'm going to try to close this deal for you. I'm going to shop this idea to him, see if I can close it. Whole day goes by. Jay can't close the deal. He's got paper for the deal, whatever he needs, but he can't close the deal. So I go back to my brother and I say, yo, he can't close the deal. He said, no, it doesn't work like that. You have to go talk to them yourself. And if you don't do it, it's never happening for you. And he was also telling me, once you have one feature, because school's very intelligent when it comes to that game.
Yeah.
So once you have one, you can stack them. So what it is for him, once he had the Dub C feature, he could go to the next guy and say, Dub C messes with me. He goes, oh, okay, Dub C messes with you, I'm going to mess with you. And sure enough, that stuff worked.
I've talked about that cosign giving credibility on Flying Formation. Like, I just started this whole fucking interview series, like, because I wanted to talk to a few artists or whatever and thought maybe I could try it or whatever. And at this point, it's like, okay, well, I've talked to pretty much everybody across the map. Like, nobody has any reason to say, no, I don't want to do it, because there's this list of all these people who have fucking done it before them. So it's yeah, I get the cosign thing. The strength of cosigns in hip hop is very, very real.
So hip hop in Edmonton, I'm gonna break it down for you from like a real, how do I say this? A humble standpoint. There are several different communities at play within the one hip hop community. So let's start it off. First off, you got the First Nations hip hop community. They've even got their own Indigenous awards. They got their own artists. We're talking generations of artists, probably 3 at this point, because I know Native rappers that are my seniors and my juniors.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
they have a whole
Absolutely.
different audience. They have whole different festivals. They have a whole different sound as well. Some of the sounds are similar for sure, but the way they deliver, the way their struggle is unique to them.
Even right into the other elements too, like into the breakdance element and stuff.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. So that is a huge pillar in our Edmonton-based hip-hop community. You can't discredit the
Where I
Native artists
started.
at all. They have a huge following. The second is you've got the, how would I put it? More of the conscious rappers, the ones that are grant recipients, writers, cats like, for example, Arlo.
Yeah.
Cats that are very well connected. They have publicists. They have a bit of a machine that can really get them out to the masses. And then you've got the streets. So the guys in the streets, that'll be myself, Skool, a handful of other guys I'm thinking of. That are just kind of winging it on their own and putting all their own paper behind their ideas and their shows and their tours and just trying to see if they can get some leverage that way. It's not so much about getting signed anymore, but everybody's trying to see if they can expand their reach. So whether that's signing a deal or whether that's getting more streams per week, per month, whatever it is, you're seeing a lot of that too. Lastly, there's the younger generation that's doing hip hop in Edmonton that I feel they probably have a lot of disconnect between us and them and the guys before us, because a lot of people feel like they don't know what success looks like in this career. So a lot of people feel like they haven't reached their potential or that they let themselves down. I know a lot of rappers that just kind of hung it up.
Yeah.
And when I asked them why, it was just regular things like they needed to go back to work to get capital, venture capital, so that they could put out another album. A lot of us, we started raising families. You know, even my own son said, yo, you know, Dad, you've been rapping forever. What happened? How come you didn't blow up? And I said, I had to raise you. What would it look like if I got signed and I just left you? You wouldn't have the relationship you have with me. And Skool was one of the first ones that told me, you know I got what it takes to be a rapper, but to be fair, family, I have to raise my daughter.
Yeah.
And he was always very big on that. He was like, I couldn't imagine being on tour and not coming home to my daughter. Like, even though he had all these records and he was really about that life, the man in him said he has to go to work. He has to provide. He has to be that person first, because this is just a passion project, and he understood that. So again, a lot of us, we are making passion projects. We're not really working off of grants or love money or anything like that. And then you got the people that are, then you got the people that are of the land, and then you've got the youth. And I feel like that's how it really splits for me.
Where would you put somebody like Doom Squad? Talking to Kryple, what is it, next week, maybe the week after that?
Kryple is unique in that Kryple does a lot by himself, like a lot. He doesn't really get as many grants or any of that stuff as people think, but he does make a decent income off of rap. And he did show me that when we were on tour probably, 4 or 5 years ago now?
Yeah,
I was on Doom Squad LSD tour. I opened for those boys all the way across Canada. And Kryple showed me what it looks like to pretty much have your ish together when you don't have any of those supports.
Yeah,
that's doing
it. They're fully independent, right? Like I'd put them with like what you said, the streets or whatever. We got guys doing it independent, completely on their own. But yeah, just I thought trying to place them, it was a little bit difficult or whatever. But yeah.
Well, Stevie's street for sure, 100%. And then Noel's right there in between. But you talk to Noel, it's the same stuff I'm talking about. Trips is super, super talented. We all know that.
Dude, there's so much talent in Edmonton. It blows my mind how much talent there is in Edmonton. And like, I don't know, even just now that I'm paying attention to all the cities across the country.
Yeah.
I'm starting to think like, no, maybe it's not just because I live there. Like I've, dug in all these other cities, and Edmonton has some special motherfuckers. Like there's a lot of good music coming out of Edmonton.
Okay, where I want to chime in on that is, for instance, like my brother stated before, I've been through many times where many things in life I had to shelve my music. But the one person, literally the one person that told me no, you know what I mean? I don't give a flying fuck. You are doing this, is my brother.
Nice.
This is not just a pipe dream. You've already done all this work, lived all this surrealness. You've been on tour with Cubes and, you know, you name it, and you've done this. But the one thing that you always said is that the world needs to hear your voice ever since you were a little kid.
And
So
I
this is
encourage all
happening.
artists, put the music out. Don't let it sit on the shelf. Put that shit out.
Whether
So
you like
I
it-
appreciate your brother. I
Whether
appreciate
you like it or
GUttA,
not.
whoever pushed you to get this music out to the world.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Is my brother.
Oh,
My brother GUttA. No matter
dope,
what.
dope, okay.
And
I didn't know if you had.
I tried to quit once before. I tried to quit once before, and he was like,
Mm.
And this is before I started doing all of this and putting this all together solo dolo by myself and doing all of this by myself. This was before that.
Yeah.
Hold up, we got to complete the story though. So he's still being sour grapes. This man doesn't want to put this record out. And then I told him, "You remember what you said to me?" He said, "What? What did I say to you?" I said, "You said if I got a game record, it's game time." And he said, "Yeah, you didn't get one." I said, "I did, and I got the contract with it." And he said, "No, you did not." And I said, "Yeah, I'm coming down to your crib. I got the game record in hand. Let's go." And he's still being stubborn, this guy. "Oh, I gotta hear it. I gotta hear it." He's so stubborn that when he hears it, Doobyis, he says, "Well, that ain't the game."
Oh, no, it was the game. I could tell. Yeah.
Oh, I know.
It's one of those AI things, isn't it? So you mentioned a contract there. That's another thing that, like, I think a lot of independent guys who are doing it themselves, who aren't really, like, you know, the guys in the grant lane are probably a lot better at negotiating those contracts and fucking publishing splits and this and that. There's got to be a lot of that type of headache to an album like this, is there?
No.
Really.
See, now
Not
that's
really.
the difference.
Go ahead,
That's the difference that with GUttA and his and me and mine, and the big difference that I'm so grateful for, and what makes mine so different from what I paid for my features, flying back and forth, actually meeting these legends, them meeting me forming bonds, relationships, family type shit. Like I'm the little homie. That's where it all falls down to is no, I don't have none of those problems. I've never had a grant before in my life.
Yeah.
All these cats were flabbergasted. Like, you're just some cat from Canada that's West Coasty as fuck. You just, like, your whole life. And then a lot of them know my pops, and I've met my father. My father and Warren G talked to each other for 2 minutes and became best fucking friends. They were inseparable all night.
Crazy, man.
I walked into the club with my father, and Warren G was standing next to Snoop, who was DJing, and Warren G was like, "Yo, like, that's my dude. Like, fucking somebody go get my dude over there at the door." It wasn't even me, it was my father. And he
That's
was,
true.
yo, somebody go get Unc over there. You know what I mean? Unc at the front door, somebody go get him. You know, and that's one of the main things, again, that I taught GUttA, that he did, and he followed it all day long,
I was going to say
into
something
the praises.
previous. The thing about it with the grants is, again, from what I understand, because I got a very artistic family, so my mother and my sister, they write grants, and they receive quite a few themselves for visual art and spoken word poetry, respectively. Just showing me what they have to do as far as boxes they have to tick once they get their grants, and what they have to show on record to make sure that they're in good standing with the committees and whatnot.
Right.
That goes out the window because, again, when I say artists are, for example, conscious is one way to put it, but it's kind of it's a poor description. I should say recognized within the community. There we go. Recognized within the community versus just street. So a lot of these guys that you see on this album, the connection was they could kind of feel that off of me in Old Skool, just talking to us like, oh, you guys probably grew up just like us. Like you guys are have-nots. You're just trying to get out the hood, right? That's your whole thing. And better
that's
better lives for our families.
That's how I had to learn it.
So the thing is, when you come to it from that, it's tangible to them being where they're from. And like you said, a lot of them don't need the grant money or what people would try to entice them with, because if they can't establish that tangibility early, they just feel like somebody's fanboying and they just need to skip that. But it's, for example, one of my fondest memories is AZ. AZ came to town. I wanted an AZ record. We brought him to the booth, everything. I thought it was signed, sealed, delivered. He told me, hey, if you don't rap for me right now, nothing is going down. So that told me right there, even if I had the grants and the support from my community, he told me flat out, if I don't like the first few words out of your mouth, I'm not doing your feature. So all the men that were on the record looked at me, okay, well, you spit for him, because the guys that were on the record too with me decided they really had cold feet at the moment and they weren't just going to have it all on their back. So I spit for AZ, and the story goes he walked in the booth right after. But there I mean, it's just different rappers have different power. For me also, because I built with Wu-Tang Clan early, they're basically my uncles. That's how that works. So I was working with J-Maze early through Killer Priest, then we pretty much went our own way. But I got blessed in because I was doing a lot more work with those guys. He was doing work with one particular artist within the group. A lot of people don't know that when it comes to the clan, they're only a group when Reza says so. Other than that, they're all their own men. So I really had to pick and choose who I was building with within the clan, because it was going to be impossible to build with everybody. And that's how I really came upon.
But a lot of it comes down to the personal relationships that you've actually built by opening for artists, right?
Absolutely. That was definitely a gateway. And shout out to, honestly, now that we're on and we're doing this interview, I got to shout out three promoters. They're the majority reason why this tape even came together. And that's Greg Nightshift, that's Dima Perlman, and that's Orville Green. If it wasn't for those three men, this probably wouldn't have happened, because the frequency at which these guys were bringing artists.
Hold up, brother, you're forgetting one.
Oh, R.I.P. Juice. Justin Juice.
Rest in peace. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, absolutely. How could I forget him? He was big,
major,
huge, big contribution.
Especially for me in the West Coast, he brought me, you know what I mean, a lot of those face-to-face that I was just dealing with, even from back and forth California. Crooked Eye was one came through, and they were brothers.
Word. So,
and he, Juice brought Crook to me face-to-face, and,
Can I ask you guys about the pay-to-play system that artists tend to hate on, but that it sounds like have kind of been a beneficial thing, like selling tickets to be the person that opens? Is that kind of how some of these gigs were landed? Was that? Yeah, right. Like having that street grind. I was always, I don't know, a little bit in awe of guys who would go out and hustle like that. Like seeing dudes like you on White Ave slanging tickets to people. I was just like, I don't want to fucking do that. Like, not even a little bit. Like, I can't be bothered. I'm not going to do it.
Hold on. Now, me, I was ignorant to that. Okay? You're the fucking promoter. Sell your own motherfucking tickets. Your show. Right. But I was different, because I knew that the artist, if I wanted to do the show and it was my type of show, and I was never one, same with GUttA, I'm not trying to open up for a fucking Lil Boosie this week, Bone Thugs next week, and you know what I mean, some trap shit, some New York shit the next week. No, I know my lane. I know my artistry. I know who I am. I stick to my own. I stay to my own.
So you tried to get on artists with the sound that you relate to when they came through town.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's where I can say, I was ignorant to that. Like, no, fuck y'all. And chances are when homie's getting off the plane, I'm fucking with them anyway. So sell your own goddamn tickets.
See,
I don't.
when it comes to me,
and now
I'm like,
the hustler. No, let me speak on that. Let me finish.
go ahead.
Now the hustler that my brother is, that's nothing to him. Now, whether he's doing
and some guys just have that game. You know, I was always just watching people on the scene being like, damn, look at these motherfuckers meeting all these famous people because, you know, they open up, they're selling these tickets or whatever. So, you know,
gotta be out here. No,
that.
But listen, gotta be out here to his type of shows in a whole different manner. I could be, you know, doing the feature, doing the video, doing whatever the hell. It doesn't matter. But regardless, just the hustler that he is. Look, I'm up because and his aspect and his drive and his game and his hustle is impeccable.
Yeah.
It's
well, I'm not gonna lie, a lot of the artists I've talked to for Fly Information have talked about that, kind of like, you know, promoters letting anybody who will sell the tickets open or whatever.
No, but see, and that's what in the city
they've hated on it or whatever. But this sounds like it was a success story based on that. You know,
can I say something, gentlemen? Let's stop cross talking.
Anyway,
let's stop talking over each other. But can I say something? Let me say something.
Hit it.
Okay, I just wanted to finish. Just quickly, let me finish.
Go ahead.
Gotta be out there selling tickets to the show just because that's his drive, his hustle. He wants more people at the show. He wants more people to know about it. That's just him and who he is. Now, me, like I said, on the other hand, I'm different. But that's just him. He'll be out there hustling the tickets, flyers, just because. And whether he's even on the show or not, he'll be out there hustling flyers just because he wants people to be at that artist show
to support
that respect that he has for that artist. Now, me, I'm already fucking with him as soon as he gets off the plane. So you're the promoter, sell your own tickets.
Here's the thing, though. I understood this is a community. So the reason I sold tickets for all those guys, and honestly, I've made them a good amount of money, all those promoters that I mentioned, just off of selling tickets, is because what happened was I formed relationships with those guys as well, not just the artists. Yeah. So now that's one thing that other rappers in the city, they don't have. I can go to any one of those men that I mentioned, RIP Juice. Actually, I even went to him right before he passed and asked him for a huge favor, and he came through with a big feature for me right before he left us. But I mean, if I hadn't actually been willing to go out there and understood, see, what people don't understand is they wouldn't put me on one time. I was pissed. I was trying to get on a show. They wouldn't put me on, so I decided I will bring a show, and it was Raekwon, and I put my own money up. I ponied up. I paid the cash. I put them in a hotel. I did all of it, rider, full rider, everything. Yeah. Just to show them that if you guys don't put me on shows, I will throw my own. And I found people to do that with me. I did it once. I didn't have to worry about not getting on shows again because it took me 2 weeks of promoting. We still broke even. It was a Raekwon show. We took it last minute. It was just like, I don't even know if we're going to make money on this, but we did break even. And yeah, that's what I will say. There's a lot of sides to it. So when you're a talent buyer, you're buying talent, you want to sell liquor, you need people to open to push tickets because at that time, Eventbrite and things of that nature weren't as developed as they are now. Right. So physical tickets were a thing and people needed to push them. Now, it's one thing to say you push your own tickets, but again, a lot of artists still wanted to be on the shows. So I feel like there was some miscommunication there. And if I could go back, what I would say is every single artist that is going to open needs a merch booth. They need to have a release that is fairly recent, and they need to make sure that on top of opening, they're getting something out of that experience, even if it isn't a feature from the main event. Yeah. Well, like you said, artists, even if it's building a relationship with a promoter or with somebody who owns the bar, or there's a lot of different relationships, and a lot of success in being an artist comes from building those relationships rather than doing your set and turning around, walking out the fucking door or whatever. Yeah, and a lot of guys, honestly, in this community, this is where we hurt ourselves because everybody's screaming support, but it's from a individual standpoint, and then your supporters support you and watch you walk out on another MC. Then you wonder why they're not supporting you as much when you drop your next single or your next album. It's because everybody's very self-centered and very focused on their own growth and what they need to do to really get ahead of everyone else. And that's why I said crabs in a bucket initially when you said, how do you feel about the scene? Because, for example, when I talk about this feature tape that I put together, and I got a separate one that isn't even out yet. I got two actually. And I started off initially wanting to do a local record. So when J Mays asked me when we were still doing our thing, producer, rapper, we're doing an actual album, what's that look like? I said, yo, I want to get everybody that's dope in the city on one tape. And he looked at me and he said, man, that is going to be so hard to do. And in my head, I was like, why would it be hard to do? Right. I'm going to pay for all the studio time. I have all the beats. You're making my beats. Let's make it happen. Could you believe by the time I actually sat down with Ghostface, I didn't have one local feature and I'd already asked about 7 MCs that we both know that agreed we were going to do the record. I showed up at the studio. Something came up. They were sick. Whatever it was, it's still happening. Even just recently it happened. I had a group of MCs. We were supposed to do a remix, and it was a Beamer Benz Bentley remix, and I got called out in a Facebook chat about right to this. So I don't know. I don't like when people call me out, and I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to make sure it's fire, and we're going to go do this remix. And then the day of, and again, I ain't mentioning names, but the people involved know who they are, about 9 MCs backed out, and I was the only one that was actually ready to go to Soundproof and record this remix while I was getting ready to drop this tape with Ol Skool. And I was like, yo, guys, if we're actually going to make music, let's make music. But why are we stalling out?
School has some dad. Looks like...
Go ahead.
No, I know exactly what he's talking about because I was one of the MCs that was supposed to be on it as well. And then when it all didn't flourish, I was like, big fucking surprise, which, yeah,
happens all the time.
It does happen all the time. Artists will backburner music for life, right? Like shit comes up, I get it. Sometimes it's, family dramas or whatever the fuck. People have some messy situations in their lives, and sometimes it's tough to stay as focused on music as we'd all like to, honestly. Like, even you got to make enough money to continue making music, right? So
exactly,
yeah, you got to figure out the work-life balance there. I don't know, either of you guys have any good tips on how to manage that work-life balance? How do you keep enough money in pocket to continue making music while still having enough time to make music?
Yo, man, it's not a secret. The city knows me. I don't drive. So that's the one thing that's really put paper in my pocket. All the hustling I've done since I was a kid, I don't actually own a vehicle. So that overhead is not a part of my life. And that's why I could afford to do the features that I did and pay for the beats that I did. But it was a sacrifice I had to make. Right. I still have a license. But I was like, how important it is it for me to drive versus getting these records done, because I can always get a vehicle later.
Yeah.
But these records are now. And, a lot of people thought, especially even with the shows, I'm glad you touched on that, because they were like, oh, don't worry, I didn't sell tickets. I wasn't on the bill this time, but I'll get on it next time. And I was telling people, did you forget where we live? There's no guarantee that there's a next time for anything. So you should just really act on that now. No matter what it is, because now, even my son, he's 13 now, he's hearing some of these records and he's like, wow, you got some of these records when I was 3. I say, yeah, I did. But I mean, imagine I would have got the vehicle or the whatever when you were 3. Would that be speaking as loud as this is speaking to you now?
Does your 13-year-old son like your current music? Or
he likes Wu-Tang Clan. He likes West Side. He's really gotten a good education threw me on what golden era hip hop is. And he's also found out what he likes today. But it's funny because at first he was a lot more of a novice when it came to hip hop. And now he's listening to new records. He's like, oh, Dad, that's trash. I'm telling you, the delivery's off and nice. The bars are weak. And I'm like, okay, so you're a real critic now. You know what the music you like is supposed to sound like. And he was even asking me, like, who should I be listening to today that could really give me a glimpse of what you experienced when you were a kid? And I told him, well, a cat like J. Cole is a great start.
Yeah.
He's very mainstream, but he also understands what the culture was about, where it's at, how it's evolved. He talks about all of it. So he quickly discovered J. Cole, made him one of his favorite rappers, you know what I mean? And it's just about really passing the torch. That's one thing I'm trying to do now. Just pass the torch, show these younger cats that they can do something even if people aren't behind them. You know what I mean? They can really...
Man, you know what I've been trying to emphasize with the different styles of hip-hop is that there can be dope in each different lane, and that one doesn't mean that the other one isn't good anymore. You know, like I play new trap music on ATSIC. I play, boom bap that's true to the like traditional roots of boom bap stuff. You know, there's still coming out new music, but there's all sorts of them, man. There's good stuff all across the entire spectrum. It's just, you know, people gotta have a discerning ear and look for it a little bit, I think.
See, one thing Old Skool touched on that was really brilliant was that he knows how to stay in his lane. So when Edmonton's landscape started shifting, because we are very much, I don't want to diss, but it's more of a follow culture in Edmonton when it comes to what's going on in hip hop globally. So whatever's hot, you're going to hear rappers locally trying to mimic that and put out records that sound like what's hot right now. Now, one thing me and my brother decided early, even though we were predominantly repping the East and the West Coast when it came to rap, we were not going to do that. We were not going to compromise our style. So he said right away, you know, they want to go do this trap stuff. They want to do that. That's cool. But we said, leave it for the youngins because it really is the music they came up with. Yeah. So when I see rappers that used to sound like me on a boom bap tip or even Old Skool on a West Coast tip, and they're like doing this turn up music, honestly, we got to give our heads a shake, me and my brother, because we're like, yo, how are you 40 sounding like you're 20, dog? Like, it's not resonating with the youth.
Yeah, you're not going to resonate with the youths from your mid-40s no matter what you do or like how trendy you're trying to sound. Yeah. I don't know. I will say that I have heard some guys who can like jump on a trap beat and still bar up in a way that hits me in the same spot that, you know, the lyricism I like does, you know?
Not necessarily trap music, but just as good as I can West Coast, and I've done it and I've proven it, is I can fuck with the folks from down south.
Right.
You know what I mean? I've had the opportunity to meet and work with a couple, but not all. And I'm not going to say too much about that because, you know, me and my brother have ideas. But, you know, your Bun B's, your Slim Thugs, your Paul Walls, your Scarfaces, you know, your Boosies, your down south. I've always fucked with the South. Right. Not as hard as I fuck with the West, but and I can dabble with the Atlantas, the Texases, I can fuck with the folks from the South.
Hell yeah. How about people from Edmonton? You like any rappers from Edmonton? So the one feature that's on there is K-Riz, right? You got K-Riz singing a hook. Are there any other Edmonton involvement on the project?
Dizzy Bad Hands. We got a hook from Dizzy Bad Hands.
Yeah, right. Forgot
Jinting Zhao. Shout out to Jinting from Up in Arms. Her voice is amazing. Phenomenal artist and engineer.
Incredible.
Okay. I didn't realize that was who that was. I didn't recognize their name. Okay.
Yeah, she's on the Snoop Dogg record. That's the voice you hear in there.
Nice. Okay, dope. So how about the rollout for this project? Like, you were talking about videos and how you're really concentrating on trying to get these singles done with videos. How many videos you got lined up?
We got one more lined up right after the one that we shot probably about 6 weeks ago now, maybe 8. But yeah, we're going to be going back, shooting another video right away. And then we got the CD release party November 10th at Rec Room South. We got DJ Fatal on the 1s and 2s that night. We've been talking to a few special guests as far as artists that are going to share the stage with us. I'm not going to go ahead and call them openers because, again, I don't feel like I'm at a place in my career where I'm getting people to open for me.
Sure.
More than anything, I'm getting homies to support us on our release. So that's what it's looking like. It's going to go, a version of the album is going to go live that day or that evening. I guess at midnight it goes live local. So everyone's going to get a limited edition, and that edition is going to be lacking some of the records that you receive. So they're not going to be getting the big name records, 3 main big name records. I won't ruin that right now, but this is just going to be for streaming capabilities. And then people that really want the record, the one that you got, then they're going to have to follow the prompts.
All right. So will there be physicals? Are you going to do?
Yes, sir.
Okay, nice. Looking forward to
vinyl
that.
as well. We're looking into CDs. I'll have at least 300 at the CD release, and I hope to see you there too, my dude. If you're in town, please do come through.
Hey man, I'd love to if I can get up there. What the hell else did I need to ask? Oh, something I ask everybody before I let you go here. Name some artists from Edmonton who people should be up on. You know, anybody who you feel like giving any props to, whether you've worked with them on this one or not. I just part of this show is to try to just spread love for the entire national scene, so that if there's somebody watching in Winnipeg, they might hear some names here and go check them out online to find some of their music or whatever.
Boy, Native Drummer Boy is one, the homie Concept. That's definitely one to look out for. He's young, he's coming up, he's been killing the game. Of course, Kryple, everybody. Kryple. No, you go ahead.
I was going to say Cabral. We're going by just Cabral now, not TK Cabral. Him and Nick Lieb, they got something special going on. Shout out to Nick Lieb. He was the first guy to book me for a festival back in the day. Creative Clubhouse really helped me get my foot in the door, and I can't give that man enough thanks. I love what he's doing with Cabral as a manager, and I love to see Cabral shining as far as his numbers. They're just huge, like some of the biggest streaming numbers that I've seen out of the city. So definitely check Cabral, support that brother. Kryple, relentless work ethic on the beats and the music and bars, whatever it is. Kryple's got all the hats. You know what I'm saying? He's wearing them all and with pride. He's just like, you know what? I'm going for it 100%. He never quits. He doesn't take days off. Kryple is worthy of streaming just for that. He treats hip-hop like a full-time job, and that's what it's been. Who else? I would say Relic. He doesn't get enough... Relic's really multifaceted because he plays guitar, he raps, he can do the live band.
Yeah, he's been running around with his like folk band a lot or whatever, but that guy can still bar up if he wants to. Yeah,
bars up, man. He's right there with Arlo and them. He knows a lot about the industry. He knows a lot about grant writing and receiving, and he knows about getting on award shows, receiving awards. I even told him probably a couple months back, yo, you're a legend. You don't get a lot of props, but for the rap, you still are, and he was just like, wow, that's cool that you feel that way. But I just needed him to know that. Big influence, that guy, huge influence. I also say Arlo, that's another guy. Everybody on the scene has different people that they gravitate to and different people they work with. You don't see us in a lot of the same circles, but I've been seeing Arlo putting on since Polylive was on the back of an ETS bus and doing videos in California, courtesy of grant money. I've been following those boys, especially Arlo, since I was a kid, ever since a club called Mega Mix that I couldn't even get into because I was too young. But those guys used to go in there and tear it up, all my older homies, and Arlo was one of the guys. He was in a crew called Straight Laced with Glock Tex and a couple other OGs. Shout out to Glock Tex, a.k.a. Jay Bangarang. He's back in town, and that boy is dangerous. I don't know why he doesn't have an album out yet. The boy is just a monster on the mic. You know what I mean? Like, he's like the Canadian Cassidy if I really had to go there.
I need you to put the E-Town album together, man. The entire time I was up in Edmonton, I was wondering, like, how come we don't really have compilations coming out with all these MCs featured with people who are making beats? So, I want to see that come out. Whether it's got the Woo features on it or not, just give us the Edmonton album. At least the listeners on my radio show will appreciate that content.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, hell yeah. But yeah, I don't want to keep you guys all night. I appreciate you going overtime here. And coming through, sending the album through, all that. It's all love over here, guys. Thanks.
Yo, thank you for having us.
Much love.
Much respect, bro.
Right on.
Yeah, much love. Appreciate.
Hell yeah. Okay, so November 10th, that's when the album drops. People can find West Coast All-Stars. It'll be on Bandcamp, right?
It'll be everywhere. It'll be on all streaming platforms, and then the deluxe edition will be available exclusively on Bandcamp.
Sure, but if people want to support, that's where it's at. Do it through the Bandcamp. I mean, of course, stream it on all the platforms or whatever. But yeah, most money gets into the artist's pocket through Bandcamp. So I'm always shouting.
Right.
Hell yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for doing this. Have a good night.
Take care, fam.
Thanks.
Peace. All right. Thanks, everybody. We got lots of interviews coming up for Fly Information. Every Tuesday night, I'm talking to different people. I think I have CXtotheworld is up next week, I believe. After that, it's Kryple. Over at Doobyis.com in the post section for every one of these interviews, you can find the list of upcoming interviews that will be happening. But if you appreciate this content, you know, tell a friend, and make sure you check out After the Smoke is Clear. That's the mix show. You can find all the archives, mixcloud.com/Doobyis. They called it the best show in Canada for rap music 2 years ago. And, you know, we're just getting better. I got DJ Baggy Lean doing mixes now a lot of the time. And it's always new independent hip hop from coast to coast. Appreciate people for coming through. And much love to everybody who subscribes over on Twitch. That's probably the best way to show love financially for After the Smoke is Clear and Fly in Formation both. Make sure you don't sleep on West Coast All Stars when it drops November 10th. Peace.